The next theme I want to talk about is rooted in community. And I kind of see myself, well, you see my moniker, Darkwater Hermit. I kind of see myself as a radical individual, kind of loner. I'm perfectly content being by myself. But one of the lessons I've been learning from the redwood trees is if you grow alone, you will probably die alone, and more easily than if you're rooted in community. And if you look at this tree was probably logged 135 years ago. And I'm gonna pivot onto that real quick because this is such a great picture to talk about the superpower of, these are called Sequoia sempervirens. Does anyone know what sempervirens means? Semper Fi is the motto of the Marines. What's that mean? Always faithful. So what do you think sempervirens means? Virens.
Together.
Always living. Never say die. I personally think these should have been called the Hydra trees, like the creature in Greek mythology. Like if you cut off one head, it grows multiple new heads. And that's exactly what has happened here. That central stump was cut down about 135 years ago. And the way I know that is, you can see up on the stump, there's these little notches. And they, back before power tools and chainsaws, they would climb up these trees because they didn't want to use those two-handed misery whips where there's all the whoop-de-doos and burls. So they would go up sometimes 10, 12 feet, cut in these notches, and then they put in these planks, almost like diving boards, and they would go around the trees, and then they would put like scaffolding on them so that the men could stand up there and saw like 12 feet, 10, 12 feet up from the ground. So when this tree was cut down, it did not die, but it sent up suckers that we call fairies. So every single trunk you see in this picture is coming from that cut down stump. It did not die. It reiterated into multiple new trees, but they're all the same tree. If you did a genetic test of each of those trunks, it would come back as the same tree. Is that awesome? Now back to my theme. Look how shallow those roots are. These trees going over 300 feet tall, and it's the same with your giant sequoias here. Their roots are only 8 to 12 feet deep. So if I was a redwood tree, it would be like only my boots would be under the ground. And here I am, this massive tree. How in the world am I supposed to stay up if I only have that little bit? Any ideas how they do it?
Rooted together.
Yes.
The roots underneath.
It would be like I had really long toes. And some of these redwood trees, their roots will extend 100 feet in every direction. Can you imagine? And they form like a Celtic knotwork in the woods below our feet, where the whole forest is interconnected together. So look at those shallow roots. And when these trees topple, they eventually fall. It can also create almost like a domino effect because of their interconnection. When one goes, now it weakens those around them. You can go to the next one. This is a close-up of that root ball I just showed. And this feature is called inosculation. And so not only do those roots go under the ground and weave together, but they also fuse together. You see how those roots have actually come? And it's not just the same tree, they will fuse together with their neighbors. And so they are actually connected underground with all their neighboring trees and their neighboring redwood trees. Redwoods are very communal trees. We sell little ones in the gift shops and stuff up there. And I always ask people before they buy me, I say, where do you live? Where are you from? Because redwoods, they need fog and a lot of moisture and room, and they grow really fast. Well, you can see that last picture I showed you where that tree had been cut 135 years ago. You saw how big those trees were already. They were already over 100 feet tall. And so it's not something you want to necessarily plant next to your house or in your backyard. And I also tell them, you better not just buy one. You need to buy like a grove because they need each other to connect together. This is so great. So this is a picture here of a tree that fell down, who knows how long ago. I mean, it could have been hundreds of years ago. But growing on top of this old stump here are new young trees, and so I would call this like a nursery stump. And so even in death, well, it's not really dead because it's still living through its suckers, but that individual trunk that died off, it's now providing life and nutrients to the young seedlings in the forest. And as it decomposes, the roots are growing into the earth and connecting with new trees. And it's really cool. Sometimes you'll see a tree and you can walk under the roots because the tree's going like this, and you have these roots, and you can walk under the roots because it had grown on a rotting log that is now no longer there. But the roots abide. This is what we would call a nurse log. It's almost like tentacles, right? I believe this is a hemlock tree that is growing on top of a fallen redwood giant, and it not only is helping it break down into the forest, but it's providing nutrients. And these fallen nurse logs in the winter, like right now, we're getting massive rain in Humboldt, and these logs are like sponges, and they're just soaking up this water, and they're like reservoirs in the woods throughout the summer months that the trees, the saplings and bushes can tap into and survive.